De Grote Tech-show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.
Goed dat je luistert naar de Grote Tech-show. Tech verandert onze wereld, hier hoor je hoe. Vandaag in gesprek met een ware icoon van het internet. Tenminste, de plek die hij heeft opgericht. Wikipedia, de site waar iedereen nog steeds regelmatig komt of kwam. Nu steeds meer mensen vragen stellen aan ChatGPT of Gemini of Claude. En dat zijn net modellen die getraind zijn met de data van Wikipedia. Dus hoe gaan ze daar zelf mee om bij Wikimedia Foundation? Daar willen wij alles over weten. Wij zijn in mijn geval Joe van Buurik.
En Ben van den Burg.
Ja, Ben. En hier in de Grote Tech-show spreken we vanaf elke donderdag ook over wat er verder speelt in de wereld van tech. Dan analyseren we de ontwikkelingen, nemen we de week in tech door. Dus volg de Grote Tech-show in je favoriete podcastfeed. Dan hoef je niks te missen. In een wereld vol misinformatie, versterkt op algoritmisch gedreven platforms en de factor AI, lijkt Wikipedia belangrijker dan ooit. Dat is toch de plek die er altijd naar heeft gestreefd en dat nog steeds doet, dat alle informatie er is, gecheckt is en gratis toegankelijk is. Wikipedia's co-founder Jimmy Wales gelooft nog steeds in die missie en is niet bang dat AI zijn encyclopedie snel overbodig zal maken. Of toch wel op een of andere manier. We'll be talking about all of this and more in English, because he's here with us. Welcome, Jimmy Wales.
Great, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You wrote a book recently, it's now available in Dutch, called 7 regels voor vertrouwen. We'll definitely get to the topic of trust in our conversation.
Right.
First, I'd like to start reading out 2 headlines from The Verge website. May 1st, 2025, Wikipedia is now using some generative AI. March 26, 2026, Wikipedia bans AI-generated articles. That escalated fairly quickly.
Yeah, I actually don't know what the first one is talking about.
I thought it was some AI assistance that was allowed for content contributors to a certain extent.
Yeah, it might have been about translation.
Right.
Which is still allowed, so they aren't contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
It's something that we are looking at in every possible way. The problem with large language models for creating content for Wikipedia is pretty obvious. Hallucinations and stylistically it's a bit annoying and all of that. But the opportunity is also very interesting in terms of can we use AI, can we use large language models in the community to help us find errors, to help us to make suggestions, to check sources, those kinds of things. And if we're talking about a tool for editors, for community members to use, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be good enough that it doesn't waste people's time.
So what's your threshold, you would say? How do you determine such a thing?
That's a judgment call, and I think different people will have different views, right? If the question is it useful without wasting too much time, that's going to vary depending on the subject matter. It's going to vary depending on the individual. Who some may say, well, actually, half the suggestions I have to ignore. But that's okay, I'm finding enough good in it. And other people will say, actually, half the suggestions I have to ignore. It's a complete waste of my time. So That's really a judgment call for the individual. But also, I think it's important to think about that, every community member who, can edit Wikipedia can use AI without it being from the Wikimedia Foundation or from the website, right? They will be using it either writing scripts to help with various chores or just asking ChatGPT to review a passage. Actually, this is one of the good uses of AI that we try to be pretty clear is okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are writing Wikipedia may be writing in a language that is not their mother tongue.
Yes.
And they may be a little uncomfortable, and we want them to feel more comfortable. So if an AI helps review their grammar, that can be okay, although you have to watch out because obviously the way it likes to talk is kind of annoying sometimes. You want to be careful about that.
So it can definitely be of proper use for your mission.
Course. Yeah, like any tool, it could be useful.
Right.
But it can be misused as well. So
now we should mention the other side of the coin as well, the fact that Wikipedia is probably the most important text content source for training LLMs, alongside Reddit as a conversational platform.
Yeah.
Is that an uncomfortable position, or would you consider it sort of a responsibility given Wikipedia's mission?
Definitely more the latter, more responsibility. I mean, what I always say is, Reddit and Wikipedia, the largest sources, Reddit to learn how people talk and Wikipedia for some information,
Yeah.
And, the Wikipedia has always been freely licensed, so it's like open source software, which means we've always people can take it and reuse it, do what they like with it, as long as they give attribution, which large language models aren't very good at. But we think it's great in a way. It's like we are part of the infrastructure of the world, the knowledge infrastructure. Certainly, I think we'd be in a really bad place if AI were only trained on Twitter, for example. Or bad.
It's different. Yeah.
And that we are part of that information ecosystem is good and fine. Obviously, we have certain concerns and complaints and things like that. But broadly it's okay.
So what are the concerns and complaints?
Well, we've had a problem with the AI companies really hammering our servers, crawling Wikipedia aggressively, which costs us a lot of money. I actually didn't understand initially this, but then as soon as it was explained to me, it made perfect sense, which is when humans read Wikipedia, we tend to go to in a very spiky way to very popular articles, either on a day-to-day basis, but also when news happens. So
we jump around.
When the Queen died, millions of people came to read. The Queen of the UK, not Maxima.
Yeah.
But when the Queen died, we got a huge spike of traffic, but it's millions of people all reading the exact same thing. They're not logged in, so it's not an identical page. So it's cached in RAM. You just send it out. It doesn't cost much. An AI bot will crawl the entirety of Wikipedia and every nook and cranny, so you need database servers and all that.
Like multiple times an hour.
And so we've started cracking down on that. That's been important. There's an enterprise product they should be using to get a feed from us. It's just better for everybody. So that's a concern, a complaint. Obviously, the lack of attribution is important, although that's a tricky sort of concept because it's like there's two levels of that. So one level is, complying with our license, which does require attribution, but that's for modified version of Wikipedia contents. But that doesn't apply if you just learn something from Wikipedia and write it in your own words, because copyright doesn't cover facts.
Right.
It only covers a particular expression. So there's some nuance in that. It's like if they're just using Wikipedia, that's fine. If they're regurgitating, which is actually, there's the New York Times lawsuit. I don't know how it's proceeding, but a big part of that was about they managed to persuade ChatGPT to cough up full text articles, which is clearly not okay.
And you've not had this with Wikipedia then?
We haven't seen it, not that I've seen anyway, so not so much. But, we're not obsessive about stuff like that. We never have been. It's freely licensed. We just do the right thing, and that's great.
Yeah. On the subject of cost and the other side of that, donations, some people I spoke to before we are having this interview is the periodically returning donate banner on Wikipedia. How effective is that, especially given this current day and age with Donald Trump, Elon Musk, you mentioned Twitter, we should say X, and everything that goes around on algorithmic-driven content platforms. Are you seeing a huge uptick?
So I would say, generally speaking, the donations from small donors are pretty steady, pretty stable. I mean, they're up. There are a few amusing moments, like the day that Elon tweeted defund Wikipedia, and I think we made about $5 million that day. So
You'd like him to send out some more of that.
So let's go, Elon. But so broadly that works, and I think a big part of it is people just, they do love Wikipedia. Like, they think it's important. They think it's worth supporting.
Are you financially healthy as Wikipedia?
Yeah, we're okay. We always have to take fundraising seriously, but people do donate, and we're okay. We try to run things in a very cautious way, so we don't blow our money. We try to build our reserves and things like that, because we don't know what the future holds.
Right.
Yeah. Do you see an increase or a decline in the contributors since ChatGPT launched in November 22, for example?
So it's hard to say for sure, but the cold numbers are we've seen a year-on-year decline in the number of people editing Wikipedia. How big is that? How crucial, critical a problem is yet to be seen. It's not a disaster yet. I like to make a comparison. So if you look at Wikipedia, like human visitors down about 8% year on year. But we don't know exactly what that means. And also measuring human versus not human visitors is a bit vague and so forth. If you look at, there's a programming website, Stack Overflow.
Yes, we know it well.
You know very well.
Really down.
Really
unbelievable.
Down, like 90%.
90%.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Like that's a disaster.
Yes.
Right? And obviously contributions down as well there. And so we're not seeing that kind of disaster just yet. But I think a big part of the reason is very, very simple. As a programmer myself, but not a very good programmer, hobbyist, and I enjoy programming. I'm actually coding more than I have in years because I can actually get some help from AI models. My traditional way of programming is I would get motivated and excited. I'm going to make a thing, and then I start working and I'm like, there's error messages everywhere. So then I Google the error message and I end up on Stack Overflow, and that was a good workflow.
Yes. And now you just ask Cloud Code to do it for you.
And it's a better, it works better. Like I can say, here's the error message I got. How do I fix it? Also explain to me what I did wrong. And it's exactly very similar to what I would have had to spend half an hour teasing out. So because it's just a better product for that, obviously it's destroyed.
But how do you compare this with Wikipedia?
So with Wikipedia, I think the use cases that we see where AI, and probably here it's not Claude Code, it's probably the AI summaries at the top of Google, are the quick answers. So if you went back, 20 years ago, and you went to Google and you said, how old is Taylor Swift? 25 years ago, she was there. She was a baby.
How old is Britney Spears?
How old is Tom Cruise? Yeah, how old is Britney Spears? Yeah. Then Google had no idea, but they would just link to Wikipedia. Then there was the era when Google knew, and they linked to Wikipedia.
Yes.
Now you get a whole AI summary and so forth for more than just a simple question like how old is someone. Yeah. You can ask all kinds of things, and I think people's search habits are changing as well. Yeah. You used to not ask Google a question like, tell me the difference between this and that, because there's no point in typing all those words. You just maybe type the this and the that.
It will be half a question, but ever since the release of ChatGPT, people are starting to use full questions.
Yeah. And those full questions, you get an answer. And so I suspect there's a lot of sites that are getting less traffic because they just get the answer directly from Google. That is definitely happening to us. But we also see the kind of long read audience, the people who come and they dig in and they read for hours and they're going here and going there and learning about a whole subject area. Yeah. That AI is not really a replacement for.
No,
yet.
but the method you just described is causes a lot of friction for people. And because of ChatGPT, we're growing used to a world with less friction. And now Ben and I love friction. We love digging about a Wikipedia page and learning stuff, as do many other people. But given that this is a shift in the world, does the user experience in Wikipedia need to grow alongside asking a question to ChatGPT?
It's a good question. I think aspects of it will and should, but not in the way that people might fear or
You're not going to do an AI chatbot
We're
or
not
agents.
going to do an AI chatbot, no. And that's been misreported because when I was talking once to a journalist about AI, I got they sort of quoted me saying, and we might have a chatbot. I'm like, not quite, no. But
let's move beyond that then.
Let's move beyond that then. Like one example that I just playing around, and then somebody had asked me a question in the community. I'm like, well, here's an example, and I did live sort of check. I asked our search engine, why do ducks fly south for winter?
Right.
And our search engine is just really old-fashioned, keyword-based, and it was good enough for long, But, like, what are the links? If you type that, you get, bizarrely, the first link was to the article about geese. I asked about ducks. The second was a children's book. It was completely useless. And then I said to, probably Gemini is the one I would have picked, because I assume it's probably, because it's from Google, it's better at searching the web or whatever. But I just said, please tell me 5 Wikipedia articles that might answer this question. And it came back with really good, like the correct answer, really. And you can imagine going from that to, a deeper process that also then goes into the each article and finds the quote that might answer the question. So that suddenly, without presenting text to end users that's generated by the large language model, but the large language model can understand what they're asking for and find the thing and give it to them. Right. That's a simple example that I think is low-hanging fruit. I mean, it'll be expensive. Right. We probably would, because we're
extra donations.
Because we're very independent in our thinking, we would probably do it with local AI, with an open source model, rather than sort of use an API at a cloud service like Google.
You want it
or whatever.
to be proprietary to the right extent.
Yeah, exactly. So we would probably do it that way. But, I think that kind of thing is quite easy. And then the other thing would be, are there ways that we can use AI to support the community? So tools that they might use. So one example I have is like comparing articles across multiple languages. Right. It seems incredibly useful. Some people in Wikipedia do that, but you pretty much have to be able to speak 2 languages.
To be a polyglot to do
maybe
it.
3, So, I mean, basically, it's only Dutch people who speak
well, we try.
a lot of languages.
Speaking of publishing article, we should talk about Fandom as well, which you're also the founder of. Actually, a friend of mine named Juan, he managed a section there about Nihon Falcom, a specific Japanese gaming company. But he recently moved it because of the increasingly heavily advertising situation. And actually, this resonates strongly with online publications elsewhere, especially niche. They have to increase the advertisers to keep the revenue. Where do you see this is headed? Because niche information is so important.
So niche information is super important. And of course, at Fandom, we always have had this need for balance between too many ads, not enough ads. It would be a mistake to put so many ads that we lose contributors. So I don't like hearing that kind of story. But obviously, these things, we have to work on. And when I look at a lot of niche information that I'm reading and looking at online and so forth. Some of the more obscure tech sites have way too many ads, and it's getting to be quite annoying. And then, of course, like one problem that Fandom has, which because a lot of our audience is gamers, and I'm sure a lot of these niche tech sites have as well, which is it's very easy to block the ads. Right. And so that means if you put too many ads, people just block them anyway. So then you have to double down and put even more. And no, that doesn't work either. So that it's a problem.
But given you've always, at Wikipedia at least, relied on donations. Now we also see the development with Substacks and other newsletters and more subscription models, including donations, is gaining momentum. Did you see that in some way driving a change that also reflects at Fandom or Wikipedia in that sense?
I mean,
a premium model?
We are unlikely to pursue a freemium model for either, at least certainly not for Wikipedia. It's just not on our radar at all. Fandom, I've not heard anybody mention or talk about it, but I don't think we would be ideologically opposed in the same way. Like if we found a way that would support, our communities, that would also, if it works, why not? Like, it seems like an interesting model. Like, I think Substack is super interesting. Actually, there's one of these tech websites I actually registered for. So I thought, well, at least they can get my data,
That's something.
Because I want to give them something, But it's hard because a lot of times, the content that people want is... particularly if it's niche content, people don't really want to pay for it. It's not that important to their lives that they would pay for it, even though they would like to look at it. And so it's hard to convince them. I think a lot of the Substack is fans of a particular, opinion former, that sort of thing, influencer, and that's fine and all that. But, I don't know of any, well, except for The Guardian, any news media, that has that kind of patronage approach. But I say that, but I think of some of them do. Like, I subscribe to the Washington Post, and I always think I should cancel it because I hardly ever go there. But I'm like, I'm happy giving the Post a little bit of money. It's fine.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is so.
I mean,
so he needs more money.
Like, well, no, that probably has reduced some of the patronage.
Exactly. Now we should talk about trust and the fact that Wikipedia has always relied on the power of community-driven and managed article generation and moderation, to ensure free information online. You wrote a book called The 7 Rules of Trust. Ben read it.
Yeah, I read it. It was a smooth Dutch read. Really, it was nice because I have to read a lot, and it's nice sometimes to have a smooth read.
It's because quite famously, Dutch is a very smooth language.
Oh, yes, it is. But it was also, for me, really idealistic. So I thought, well, that's so idealistic. I mean, nowadays it's only about power, and this is about trust. The trust is gone. How we are going to deal with that?
Yeah. Well,
it's in your book.
I'm an optimist, and I think part of the point of the book is we definitely need to put trust on the agenda, and we need to put getting back to a culture of trust. I think a lot of the book is, not all of the book, but a lot of the book is aimed at sort of businesses thinking about the importance of trust and so forth. So, tell stories of Airbnb and Uber. But I was actually just talking to someone about, I used to buy Tumi luggage all the time. Tumi is a pretty expensive brand, but they had a lifetime guarantee. I once had a suitcase that broke. Took it to the shop. They just handed me a new one right there, no questions asked. It was brilliant. Then, as is the story of enshittification, as Cory Doctorow calls it.
Yeah, we know all about it.
There was some ownership change, and they got rid of the lifetime guarantee, and they've become more of a fashion brand. And according to people on Reddit, the quality's gone way down, and they've lost my trust.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for a new suitcase brand. So, and I think that's important. I think it's really crucial. Like, they built a business where people actually loved the brand, they loved the quality, they thought this is good, this is trust, and now they've lost it, and they need to think about how they're going to regain it, if hopefully their sales fall.
We praten zo verder met onze gasten in de Grote Tech Show na deze boodschap. En nu verder in gesprek met onze gasten. Yeah, now Wikipedia, strictly speaking, isn't a business. It's a non-profit.
Right. Yeah, we're a charity.
However, you've prevented enshittification for the past 26 years there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so.
So surely there should be some lessons, including the 7 you've wrote about, that everyone, including for-profit businesses, could apply.
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
What's the key?
I think the 7 rules are key. Like that. The idea is like, I was looking at the world and looking at this decline of trust in media, in politics, in journalism, in business, and so forth. And meanwhile, Wikipedia's gone from being kind of a joke to one of the few things people trust, even people who criticize it. They get that we try to listen to criticism. And
but 20 years ago, before I started to study journalism, teachers in that field would say, you in high school, you're just copy-pasting a wiki page and calling it an essay. Rather than going to the library. Now it's in 2026, and it's just as you described, Jimmy. We're quite pleased if someone at least mentions Wikipedia as a credible source.
It's...
But is that something positive or a negative?
Which part? Yeah.
Well, the fact that it's changed. It's good for Wikipedia, and the fact that people have trusted that for a long time.
Yeah.
But the fact that trust has eroded to the point where this is stated.
I hope it's because our quality's improved as well, not just that everybody's disappointing in everything else.
Well, there you go. That's the point.
I think it's really important, and it's really a matter of some urgency to think about trust in journalism in particular. So I give this personal example of a friend who I knew in my 20s. I'm getting old. It's a long time ago now. And he had posted something on social media, and I thought, I'm not sure that's right. So I did a quick Google, and I found a New York Times article. I'm like, hold on, look at this. And he basically said to me, I can't believe you would link to the New York Times. They just make stuff up, basically. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, this is not good. And if he had come back and said, well, you do realize the New York Times is a left-leaning paper and they have blind spots and fine, great, yes, of course, like that, these are all things that we should be grappling with. But just to dismiss it completely out of hand, to say, oh, New York Times, you might as well just send me, like the ravings of a crackpot. That's a problem, right? Because that means, like, what happens to discourse, what happens to the corrective of debate and discussion if you think media you don't agree with is just made up out of thin air? That's so unhealthy. So we and I think we need to think about it in a lot of different ways.
And how are we going to change that? Because so one of your 7 rules are make it personal, be positive about people, create a clear purpose. Okay, we know we have to do that, but it's also abstract. So how do you implement that in all society?
I think in different aspects of society, there'll be different practical things that need to be done. I would say with journalism, one of the things I think is really important is being very, very clear to separate opinion from news reporting. Right. Really important, because to the extent that has eroded, it erodes trust. I mean, one of the things I do talk about in the book, we keep coming back to Jeff Bezos, we're not even talking about it, but
we're talking about you.
I said in the book, like, when the Washington Post decided not to endorse any presidential candidate, I said, I actually agree with that, although it was very, very badly timed, because it was just before the election. It seemed like it was implicitly support for Donald Trump or something. But broadly, I mean, it's like if you go back and you sort of say to yourself, I wonder who the Washington Post will endorse. Well, you already knew that. It was going to be the Democrats for decades. And was anybody like, I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for? Oh, the Washington Post says this. Okay, then I'll go with it. No, this is completely pointless. It's they're not that cheap. Also, the research shows that when newspapers endorse a political candidate, it reduces trust not just from people who disagree with the endorsement, but from people who agree. And I thought that was really interesting. That even if you agree with the endorsement, you begin to wonder, is the news coverage being slanted to support their favorite candidate? Right. And you don't want that. Like, certainly as a journalistic organization, I think it'd be fine if you say, look, our individual columnists can do an endorsement, but that's under their name and it's quite clear their personality and so forth. That's fine. But for the paper itself, we should refrain from doing that, because our job is to be the framework. That's the kind of thing.
And
that
Jeff Bezos had to say it after the elections. Then it was better. So
it would have been better, if they had done it, sort of after the previous midterms, in a kind of quiet moment, to say, actually, we've looked at the research and this isn't helping. And by the way, nobody. I mean, everybody who thinks this is great is already going to vote that way. So,
but I guess you could argue that it depends on the function of any given institution, whether it's a newspaper or, speak of institutions, Wikipedia. This reminds me of something a colleague of ours, stock market editor Jochem, who was actually once an active moderator on Wikipedia, now a paying supporter still. He mentioned this. He says, as humanity, we keep inventing systems to gently steer our natural habits in the right direction, or another direction than the current one. And Wikipedia, he argued, is the most recent and arguably effective one.
Oh, so that's very nice.
Yeah, well, he was once a part of it. But my question to you, is it effective enough? And what else, in terms of other institutions, need to collaborate to ensure we steer a bit more or less, maybe?
Yeah, no, I do think it's a very interesting question. I mean, certainly it's not enough, because if it were, we can transform the world into a paradise of reasoned discourse, right?
No.
And, so like, what are some of the elements? So like, one of the things I've found very interesting, and this is around the business model of journalism, that in general, I would say the financial press, which tends to be behind a paywall. Also, I think with business people will have their own biases and so forth, but when you're getting business news, you pretty much want the facts, because making the wrong decision on ideology would be bad for you. But also that the pay model, I think, helps a lot, as opposed to the
advertisement model.
Ad model.
Yeah.
And, so I think I've been...
Donations or subscriptions.
I've been pleased, exactly, to see the rise of more... of paywalls, although that obviously there's some downsides to that in terms of people's access to knowledge and information. But, having business models that work, and actually one of the ones that I have no solution for that I do think is a big problem is the decline of local journalism, where, I was talking to my mother. So I grew up in Alabama, Alabama, and I was a paper boy when I was a kid. So if you're imagining an American movie,
You threw it also
on a bicycle.
You threw it
just straight out of the movies. Exactly.
Although right on the doorstep.
It was pretty miserable. Yeah. Try not to get.
It's not as romantic as it looked in the films.
Don't get bitten by the dog, and if they're late with their payment, you might throw it in the sprinkler. But you know what? I'm just kidding. I don't know, Mr. Jones.
Not really.
But ultimately, I was just talking to my mother. I'm like, great paywall. You know, I think this could be helpful. Yeah. And she said, but, like, why would I subscribe to the local paper? It's terrible. It used to be good, but now it's published 3 times a week. It's published from a city 100 miles away.
Full of ads.
They have almost no. She's like, it's ads, and the ads are in a way useful, because they're just like local, I don't know, grocery store ads and so on. Yeah. But ultimately, she's like, I wouldn't pay for it. Yeah. And so that's a chicken and egg problem, right? Yeah. How do you get there? And I don't have a good answer, but I do think it's something that needs solving.
In a similar way, and I would say this is a paradox, but also because of Wikipedia, people have also grown used, and Google obviously, and now ChatGPT, have grown used to finding good information for free. Whereas I'm sure book publishers were complaining about you 20 years ago. Now they're hoping to collaborate and raising trust in society. So it's been part of the problem, and now it's part of the solution, I would argue.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And I think as we move forward, obviously the big change in technology right now is the large language models and AI. Certainly in consumer tech, because AI is much broader, with, AlphaFold, and, there's a lot going on that's not about, but
research
in consumer tech, that shift in how people are accessing information and how they're accessing information is huge, and it has some positives and some negatives. Like a lot of it's really easy to find negative things, but it's also it's like really important to understand, like, people are finding it incredibly useful and in a positive way. Like I'm coding again for the first time in years, because actually I can do it, because if I'm a little rusty and I can't quite remember how to do something, instead of Googling for an hour, I just ask the question, I get the answer. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, I can do that. So, and that's true of all kinds of things. People are using it. I used it, actually. I came here with my children for the Vermeer exhibit.
Really good.
And you learned about
which was fantastic. Well, no, a little bit, but mainly I just said, here's the ages of my children, and I'm going to Amsterdam for the weekend. We're going to go see the Vermeer. It was ChatGPT at this time.
Wow, okay.
And what are things that I should do with kids? And it gave me an itinerary and a list of things. Fair. We ended up not doing any of that, because a human who lives here had sent an email saying, here's our recommendations. I've been living here for 10 years. I'm like, I'll go with the human this time.
Oh, wow.
But broadly, it was useful. Yeah. And actually, this is one of the reasons I think it's very problematic if we think about ad-supported AI chatbots and trust.
Exactly.
Which is the next phase.
Because when you go to information, they want to keep you as long as possible in your chat. So the information is not neutral, is biased, because they want to keep you on the platform. So then I
think that's right. Although I think there'll be a balance. So if it's ad supported, then yes, they definitely want to keep you there as long as possible and seeing more ads.
They want to engage you to the maximum.
Yeah, if it's a pay model, then they want it to be useful in your life.
Even with the pay model,
even with the pay model, but maybe less so, because they also know you're going to stop paying for it if all it does is annoy you and keep you going longer. So it's a complicated question. I would rather pay, but I can afford to pay. So that isn't going to apply to everybody. Yeah. So that's a complicated question. Yeah. But I'd rather pay and get, a thoughtful answer, and in fact, it's a joke in society now how annoying all the AI models actually, because lately I use all of them, and I use them in different ways, but I kind of just randomly pick one, and they're all very similar. They're all very annoying.
Yeah, they all look alike.
They all suck up to you and so forth, which is interesting when I think about the future. It's like, I don't think we're quite there yet, because they do have certain strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. But there's a certain commodification of the frontier models, as they are pretty similar in lots of ways. They aren't radically different from each other. And I don't know what that means for those businesses.
Plus the consistency. Because when you go to Wikipedia, it's so there is a but not with so when there is a new model, it changes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, certainly for
different output.
I'm a big fan. I use a lot of local. Large language
on your computer.
I bought an absurdly expensive laptop
to run Clawbot.
To run to run. What was at that time? It was like Llama 3.3.
Oh right, yeah. Local models.
Local models. So I run local models. Really excited about Gemma 4. The latest Gemma 4 is quite impressive, and you can run it on a smaller computer than mine, and it's good. But also, I think for a lot of business users, the fact that the cloud models just you wake up one morning and they're giving different performance levels and different results is like really a problem that people aren't. People have been going crazy lately about Claude seems to have gotten dumber and
not consistent at all.
Not consistent at all, and you sort of need that if you're using it for a business use case. You don't want
it's about trust.
Yeah, your trust. You don't want your customer surgeon, customer support agent on the web. People ask a question and one day it gives a great answer and the next day it's like la land.
There's one more topic I want to touch on, Jimmy, and it regards findability, if you will, and the position that Wikipedia holds at, because it's crucial. For example, you only get a Google knowledge panel when anything has a wiki page, and I've had this one myself. Someone wrote a wiki on me only for moderators to determine he's not encyclopedic enough to be on Wikipedia. You've heard this many times probably. Now, disregarding it's about myself or my profile online, you could argue that's some serious gatekeeping in a day and age where your online presence makes or breaks a career, a business, or even a personal life. Shouldn't everyone at some point have a right to be encyclopedic to a certain extent?
No, probably not.
Oh, that's a question. Because you could argue.
I would say, actually, this is a funny example. I once asked this question in an interview, sort of hypothetically, and I said, well, look, if we could have an entry about everyone, why shouldn't we? And that was like, the reporter took it the wrong way to say, Jimmy thinks there should be an article about everyone. I'm like, no, I'm saying if we could, but we can't. And the but we can't part is the most important part of that. So, I think for Wikipedia, we've got a set of notability requirements that have to do with, obviously, they vary according to the subject area and the matter and all of that. But, you need third-party reliable sources. In many cases for biographies, the important thing is, is there actually enough information to write a biography as opposed to just a blurb about something they did, which probably should go in the thing that they did. I remember an example where this really became clear to me. It was a long time ago, but there's the TV show American Idol, Pop Idol. You must have a
Idols. We called it in the
Idols, a similar kind of thing. And this was the Philippines edition of Philippine Idol, so a music contest. And in English Wikipedia, someone had made an article about every single contestant, including the ones who got voted out in the first round. And there was a discussion like, is that necessary? Is that necessary? Is it even a good idea? And I was like, you know what? This kid who was on there and they're 18 years old and they got voted off, the most likely scenario, I really wish them well. I hope they have a huge career in music, but the most likely scenario is we're never going to hear them again. That's what happens. You go on these shows. Some of them, remember there was I think his name was William Hung or something. He did this ridiculous comedic sort of audition. It went viral. He's still famous for that.
Only because it
was so bad that it was good.
Yeah, fair.
But generally, and I was like, the person, they're going to go and they're going to get married, they're going to have kids, they're going to have a career, they're going to maybe die in a car crash. We're not even going to ever know this stuff. We can't keep it. We don't have the ability to keep this as a real biography of someone. So we shouldn't have this. At the same time, obviously, AI will have things like that.
Not to mention that Google takes this information and then augments it.
Yeah, exactly. And
so, otherwise it won't.
Yeah. And so that, I think it's really interesting. And certainly, right now, you can definitely find an AI summary. I think if I went in I don't know how Dutch Google is, but
pretty Dutch.
Yeah.
It's pretty Dutch, yeah. But
if we can.
If we said who is and you.
Oh, it would definitely give a
quick,
proper bio.
A proper bio.
Yeah,
it
would.
Fantastic. In the summary, and then that's fine.
And I think...
And you won't say, even though when there's example given, not a Wikipedia you'll need, it's just based on Business News Radio articles, and you'd say that's fine?
It's fine, yeah.
But that's interesting, because I think the Google, when you Google Joe, it's better. I have a wiki page, but my wiki page is really bad.
And you're a former speed skater, so
but really bad.
Okay.
And no one will edit it, but it's for years it's really bad.
Okay. Well,
anyone listening now, please edit Ben's page and make mine.
Some Wikipedians are going to listen to this, so maybe it'll get better.
But the Google summary is better then. So that's also interesting.
Yeah, well, that's like you said, Jimmy.
Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. But and those Google summaries are getting better. I would say a year ago I was surprised that they rolled it out because I thought it's really not good enough.
We were all bracing ourselves.
And when you used it, you're like, it gives these laughably silly answers sometimes. And I thought the only reason they're doing it is they're feeling the heat of the competition from ChatGPT and all that.
Yeah, we were all
they
saying
felt
that.
like they had to roll it out.
Yeah.
But it actually has gotten a lot better. It doesn't, in my experience, I've not done any comprehensive testing, but in my experience, it doesn't seem to be as bonkers as it was. I'm not sure.
Or could be well. Thank you for your time. Co-founder of Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales.
Lovely, thanks.
Tot zover voor nu. Luister de Grote Tech Show juist ook als podcast via de app die jij gebruikt om podcasts te luisteren. Zoals bij uitstek de app van BNR. En vanaf elke donderdag hoor je dan dus wat er verder speelt in de wereld van tech. Als we in de Grote Tech Show ook die ontwikkelingen doornemen. Tot dan. Tot de volgende Grote Tech Show. Dag.
De Grote Tech Show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.